Hello there everybody, welcome back to my channel, and nearly 30 years later, the A Link to the Past ending theme still makes me well up. My name is Joesephyr, and welcome to today's Should You Pull video for Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia, and today we're going to be talking all about Desch, who is the third representative for Final Fantasy III to arrive in Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia. So I'm going to take you through what his kit does, what he brings to the table in terms of party composition, and also take a look at his event and see what we can recommend when it comes to taking on the Chaos event. So if that's something that you guys are interested in, then stay tuned and keep on watching. As always guys, don't forget to check out in the description box below all of my social media links, including Twitter, Twitch, Discord and Patreon. This time around I'm actually going to switch the order that we do things in the video up a little bit. I'm actually going to talk about Desch first, and the Should You Pull portion of the video, and then I'm going to leave the event part of the video until later, in the effort that I'm going to add more timestamps and things to the video, because you guys have given me that kind of feedback, and I would like to try and make the videos as streamlined as physically possible for you guys to watch. Of course, with Patreon, every time I release a video I shout out one of my patrons at random so that I can give a personal thanks to each and every person that decides to support the channel further, and today that person is going to be Dissidia. Thank you very much for your support, it means the absolute world to me, as all of you very much well know by now. Don't forget to check out all of the websites associated with Opera Omnia that are linked in the description box below, and as you can see all around me in this frame. And of course don't forget to check out all of the other content creators that are out there besides myself. So as I said earlier, I'm actually going to switch things up a little bit, and we're actually going to talk about Desch and his kit before we go into the actual event itself. So Desch is a Enchant in Peril based character that has some fairly unique properties by himself that aren't taken up by other characters, but if you break his stuff down, you can fulfill a lot of his roles with other characters. What I mean by that is that he has his Thunder in Peril enchant and access to paralysis in his kit a little bit, so Raijin can actually kind of fulfill a lot of these things instead, and he also has access to lowering the amount of damage for magic damage that the party takes, or the amount of physical bravery damage that the party takes, which is obviously fulfilled with tanks or characters like that. So, using Thundering Slash, he does an AoE Brave HP attack with split HP damage that improves when you give this 55 passive, and he also gives the party Anti-Magic Area, which, like I said, lowers the amount of bravery damage that your party takes from magic attacks, while also granting Thunder Enchant and raising offensive stats. Now, the Thunder Enchant is great here because if you actually already have some of his weapons available, or his 15 and his 35, he actually inflicts Imperil with his skills on top of that. So you can actually make good use out of these just without even looking at his EX and LD. Obviously you're not going to take him to a party to any chaoses other than maybe his own challenge quest, which I'll get to in a little while, without his EX and LD, but it's nice to know that he has uses without them. Lightning Flash, similarly, is a Brave HP attack that has splash damage once you've given him his 60 passive, and it also, both of his abilities, heal the party when you use them. So, like I said, Raijin has HP regen, whereas Desch has Thunder abilities that heal your party when you actually use them, so they are slightly similar in that regard. But the Anti-Physic area does much the same as the Anti-Magic area, but instead of giving you resistance to magic attacks, it gives you resistance to physical ones instead. Desch's C65 ability actually heals the party, as well as giving max Brave Overflow for 3 turns, and you can actually get up to 3 uses of this if you give him his Bloomstone and everything. So Desch, he is more of a defense-based character, he's quite similar to Raijin in a lot of ways, because he provides HP regen, healing from his kit, as opposed to the HP regen that Raijin does. His hit count on his abilities is okay, being at 4 hits either with Thundering Slash or with Lightning Flash. One of them is split damage, one of them is 50% splash damage instead. But moreover than anything, you're actually taking Desch along for either Anti-Magic Area or Anti-Physic Area, as well as the other stuff that his LD and his EX provide. Now we're going to go over his LD first. Electric Floor is a 4-hit Thunder AoE Brave attack that does a single target HP attack that hits twice, so you're going to do 8 hits in total. It also has a really solid amount of Brave Overflow, but the most important thing that it does is it grants Electric Area. Now Electric Area is a buff on him that raises your party's weakness damage, so he pairs up very well with characters like Shan or Alize, characters like that. But the thing that it does that's a bit weird is that after each enemy takes their turn, they either get paralyzed or get defense down. The paralysis is a little RNG based, which is it's not fantastic in all fairness, but honestly, as long as you see it as you're getting the elemental weakness damage, you're getting a really strong attack off of the LD itself. It is single target HP damage, but it is quite a lot of it. Then you kind of want to see the paralysis as a bonus. Don't rely on this like you would with Raijin or characters that have paralysis in their kit, or Shantoto even, because what will happen is you'll rely on it, you'll want it to happen, you'll get that defense down instead, and then you'll be upset by the fact that you tried to rely on it. So try not to do that. Then with the LBs on the LD as well, it's more max bravery and attack, which is great. It extends the duration of electric area to 8 turns. So the chances are you'll get at least 1 paralysis within those 8 turns, or at least you'd hope you would. So it's a strong aura to have, and it does benefit your party by increasing weakness damage at the same time. And you've seen with characters like Alize and Shantoto how much increased weakness damage can do. Now the EX, which is Ancient Bolt, is a 6-hit Brave HP attack with 100% AoE damage to all enemies, which also inflicts a frame debuff called Ancient Spell, which lowers the enemy's maximum bravery. But this maximum bravery debuff is really massive to begin with, and it degrades over time for the amount of time that the debuff lasts. If you put Power Stones into it, you also get Thunder Resist down on it, so literally everything he does except his LD will inflict Thunder Resist down, which is great because he enchants the party. And then with Book and Ingots, with the Book, you're just going to get more damage. You're never going to just use this with 0 out of 3. If you're going to use it, you're going to be maxing it out. 1 out of 3 raises his stats, which is great. 2 out of 3, it gives you anti-magic area at the beginning of the quest. And it also makes it so that your first ability doesn't consume an ability use, doesn't have a turn count, doesn't have any action delay, and will max out your EX as soon as you do it, which is great because recast rate on Desch's EX is a little on the slow side. So being able to start with your EX, as we've seen with many other characters that start with either start with their EX or fill their EX out within the first turn, they benefit from abilities like that quite a lot. And then with 3 out of 3, you get 8-hit Brave HP. Bear in mind it's 100% AoE damage, so it's going to be really strong. It's going to hit really hard. And it also improves his Brave and HP attack. So his Brave attack is 3 hits, his HP attack is 3-hit Brave HP. It brings them up to the standard that we would expect from a HP plus in this day. It's not the greatest HP plus in the world, but it's certainly not a bad one either. Desch, like I said, is a character that you take along if you want that Enchant in Peril, the healing, and you also kind of want to experiment with Electric Floor, or you just want those defensive auras from anti-physic or anti-magic area that work really well in conjunction with enemies that like to use both magic and physical or physical attacks. And you'll see with the boss of his event, they kind of telegraph what kind of attacks they're going to be using. That being said though, obviously you can't have them both up at the same time. And if you're against an enemy that exclusively uses either magic or physical attacks, then you're going to run out of that skill very quickly if you're not careful. So if you're going to use Desch, then you want to use him where his auras are going to be most relevant to you. So he's not a character you can take to literally everything, especially considering that his kit is entirely thunder based. So if an enemy resists thunder, then that's not going to be great for him. But in the right circumstances, Desch is actually fantastic. Like, he does provide really nice stats to your party. The bravery damage reduction on him is actually very strong. If the electric floor goes off and you've got paralysis in his kit, or you're using another character like Shantoto or somebody like that that can inflict paralysis as well as him, you can lock enemies out for quite extensive periods of time. So I don't think that Desch is a bad character. I think he's actually pretty great. But he's not the be-all and end-all like some players would like him to be. Artifacts for Desch are really nice and easy. Attack 108, definitely, because you want on anyone, pretty much anyone that deals bravery damage at this point, and his C50 ups his stats as long as you've got either anti-magic or anti-physic area up, which you're bound to have for pretty much the entire time you're using Desch. So honestly, Desch is a nice and easy one to clarify when it comes to artifacts. So now let's have a quick look at the event itself. What can we expect from the Chaos event portion of Desch's event? Now, the Flumen Dracos, which are the primary enemies that you're going to be facing here, are weak to thunder, which makes sense because obviously Desch is part of this, and they absorb water. They also have 2 different states that they work in. Like I said when talking about Desch, they have a telegraphed thing to say, I'm going to use magic attacks, or I'm going to use physical attacks. When they're in their magic state, they lower your brave gains. So if you're using abilities like regens or batteries or anything like that, then the magic state makes it so that you gain less from those, and then they exclusively use magic attacks. They do also have a magic or a magic state plus, which when they use it, they cleanse themselves of all debuffs and frame debuffs. So just be very cautious of that if you're going in with certain debuff-based characters. So if you're using an Imperialer, make sure that you can put that back on at any time. If you're using characters like Arciella, which I'll get to in a moment, make sure you time your HP silences correctly, and then that will be fine. In their physical states, they raise their defense and they gain brave damage resist. So what this is wanting you to do is to bring an Imperialer, essentially, because you're wanting to counteract the brave damage resist so that you're able to kind of bypass it by being able to hit them relatively hard, or at least hard enough to break them, through those kind of through those defense buffs, through all of that. And weakness damage is going to be a massive benefit to you for that, which is why characters like Onion Knight are on the banner as well, because it can also bring ice resist down and also take advantage of imperils that way. They, in both physical and magic states, they have brave HP attacks that hit more than once, so you unfortunately can't rely on last stand to get past these. There will be situations where it will help, like in the magic state they do a 3-hit AoE brave HP, then a 2-hit one, whereas in the physical one they do a 4-hit brave HP and then a 1-hit brave HP. So basically you just want to make sure you're managing your HP as best you possibly can. With regards to characters that you can bring along for this, then I would suggest bringing an Enchant Imperialer that's not Rydia, because you can't make much use of water in this particular fight. So Garnet, Raijin, Fujin, all of them will work really well. Alize is a fantastic damage dealer for this because she has such strong imperils and the ability to be faster than them as well, because the enemies aren't slow in this particular fight. You've also got Iguions on wave 1, which obviously gets stronger if one of them dies, but they don't recover HP this time around, so make sure that you're able to just take them out one after the other as quickly as possible, and you'll be able to move on to wave 2 nice and easy. If you're going to take anyone that can heal, then characters like Garnet and Alphino are probably your best bets, because Garnet, for example, while she's providing the Thunder Imperil, the auras, things like that, like I said, water on Garnet, not going to be that great, but the Thunder part of her is going to be fantastic, so keep that in mind. But then Holy Prayer will just insta-battery everybody regardless of the game, of the magic aura, sort of preventing that from being quite as effective, and you're also going to be able to fully heal off of it. Alphino is a character I really like here as well, because Alphino is very turn efficient, he's very, very fast for being a support character, and he also provides a massive attack aura which will help your other characters bypass the physical state of the Flumen Draco, so you can get through them and just make sure that you can hit them just as hard as you need to be able to hit them to break them. Similarly, I think that a tank can help quite a lot here, particularly Snow, because he also can just dish out a large amount of damage. He has healing in his kit as well, whereas characters like Zac don't, so being able to keep on top of your HP is going to be really, really beneficial to you. Keita has Blizzard Imperil in her kit, and she's obviously a tank herself, so she's actually somebody that I would very much consider taking to this. And I've used Keita a lot recently, actually, so for those people who were like, or even myself, that said that she wasn't quite as good a team player as she was a solo player, yes she is. She's actually very good for this. And then lastly, Arciella I think works really well here, just for fast cast more than anything. And the HP silence, as long as you time it correctly, like as much as I say that they can self-cleanse, it's actually very rare that they do so, and it's not until much later in the fight. It's a magic state plus that they use that will do so. But honestly, with many clears that I've seen, a lot of the times they don't ever actually do that. So you can use your debuffs quite sparingly. The last thing I did want to mention with regards to the Chaos Challenge is that if you're not wanting to pull for Desch, I've actually found a video that I'm going to link in the description box below by Dani Cruz, who has gone through the Chaos Challenge with only Ultimecia and Shantoto's EXs, not their LDs, and Desch with only his 35 CPs. So if you're worried about clearing the Chaos Challenge, I was actually very worried about this one because I'd failed to get Ultimecia LD, more on that another time, and I probably won't be able to pull for Desch because I've been failing on my pull so badly recently. I was worried I wouldn't be able to finish it. But if you check out the video in the link description box below for Dani Cruz, go and check them out. The video is fantastic, and it will help you kind of navigate your way through the event whilst also saying you don't need to have everything to clear it. So now we come to the big question of the video: should you pull on Desch's banner? Now, Desch, I think, like Ultimecia before him, and as much as I didn't listen to my own advice when it came to Ultimecia, I think he's one of the easier characters to skip. I think he's very underrated, and I think the reason for that is because he's not a super popular character, being a side character from Final Fantasy III. We all know that we have some really heavy-hitting banners coming up in the near future, so anything from Noctis onwards, basically. So people are a little bit more hesitant to pull for a character like Desch, but I think that he's actually very underrated. I love his auras, I love the fact that he has the electric floor, I think his kit's really cool. Healing on an offensive support character I really enjoy, like I love Raijin, but because of that, if you already have characters like Fujin, Raijin, or anything like that, this banner is probably not going to be as appealing to you, because they are offensive-based support characters that have access to Enchant and Imperil. So if you already have them, particularly Raijin, I think it's safer for you to skip out on Desch. Desch definitely brings things to the table that Raijin doesn't, like his auras, the anti-physic, anti-magic area, things like that. There are things he can do that Raijin can't, but his paralysis is significantly less reliable than Raijin's, and Raijin still has, he has his paralysis, he has his healing, things like that. He is also really slow though, where Desch isn't, so maybe you might want to weigh that up. If you want to take advantage of the fact that he has these defensive auras, I think his banner itself, other than him, is not great. Trust me, coming from a personal place, Yang is not good. I have tried and tried and tried to make him work, and he's just not very strong. Onion Knight is also quite dated, but if you get his EX, it'll help you later down the line when his LD and Burst come out, because his LD and Burst are actually very good, so you may want to consider that. Like I said, if they're not good enough for you, then I wouldn't necessarily pull on this banner. We haven't had Desch return as of yet in JP, so maybe they'll release something else for him later down the line with his LD boards or something like that. If you think that you've got characters that can take up his roles, if you're happy with your tanks, if you're happy with your defensive characters, if you have like an Imperil Enchanter that you're happy with, particularly Raijin because he's Thunder Enchant Imperil, then I don't think that you need to pull on this. So this banner is one that it completely depends on what you already have. If you don't have an Enchant Imperil that you're happy with, particularly for Lightning, so like I said, Raijin, Garnet is another great example, somebody I've recommended for the event itself, then you could go in on this. Otherwise, I'm not so sure that you need to. So that's going to be it for today's video. Thank you all very much for joining me today. Hopefully the next video that we shall have will incorporate the community stream, because this is the last event that we have before we kind of go off into the ether of the unknown as to what we don't know is coming. We know Gabrant is coming. Then we're going to obviously have a look at what's coming up on that. Don't forget to like the video, share it out, subscribe to the channel, and click that bell for notifications so that you can see any future videos I make for Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia. Come check me out on Twitch, or send me a message on Twitter or Discord, anything like that, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take care everyone, bye bye.